Welcome back. Today I'm working on this mid-century style dresser. It's a walnut veneer all over, except for this top. It has some kind of sticker situation going on, but I think this was placed by the previous owner and not the manufacturer because there is walnut veneer underneath there. So we're gonna try and peel that off. It is a Bassett, so that's nice. It has a maker, but overall it's pretty good structural condition, just a lot of cosmetic wear. So let's get this thing refreshed. The first thing I'd like to do is get the sticker off the top and see what this veneer is looking like underneath. So I don't know if perhaps there's some damage, which is why they did put this on there in the first place. So I'm just using a heat gun here to warm it up, and then I'll see if I can just peel it off. So luckily it's not giving me too much trouble, so I'm just gonna go little by little, warming a little bit up, peeling it back, warming a little bit up, peeling it back until I get all of this off. Now that I've got that off, I can inspect the veneer on the top, and I mean, in general, it's in good shape. I don't see any veneer damage or water damage or anything. So I'm just gonna go ahead and give the whole piece a wipe down and then move on to removing the drawers and prepping for stripping. I'm anticipating that the veneer on this piece is going to be quite thin, so I'm going to start off with a chemical stripper. This is Clean Strips Premium Stripper from Lowe's, Home Depot, regular big box store here in the US. And I'll use it to see how much I can get off before coming in with my sander. I'm hoping I can just jump right to the 180 after I do the stripping so that there's not a lot of risk of burning through the veneer. So I'm just applying this as per the instructions using a chip brush, and I'll apply this pretty generously on the surface and then come back in about 15 minutes and scrape it away. It was a little cold this day, so I don't know if it was the low temperature or I should have left it on longer, or it just doesn't work with whatever the finish was on this piece. So the stripper didn't take very much off. So then I'm coming back in, which I would have done anyway, with some lacquer thinner to clean off the stripper, and using really fine steel wool, just kind of getting off additional finish, which is working better. And then I like to use paper towels to then wipe everything off. After letting everything dry, it's now time for sanding. I am starting with 180 to see how this is working. And it was working okay for part of it and then not so okay for the other part of it. So I did end up going back down to 120 and then working my way back up to 180. I started noticing that I was getting very close to, I didn't, but I was getting very close to breaking through the veneer in a certain area near the front. And so I wanted to just clean off the sanding dust, double check my sanding swirl situation, making sure all of that's good. And just seeing maybe there's some kind of residual oils or something that was causing the sandpaper not to work as well. So after I finish wiping this down, I'll let it dry. And I'm going to move on to sanding the other parts of the dresser. As I was expecting, and is usually the case, the drawer fronts have less protection on them, just in general. It makes sense, you know, they usually put more top coat or finish on the top to protect it from, you know, that's the bulk of where the wear and tear is going to be. And so the drawer fronts are usually pretty easy to sand, as well as the sides. And so I'm using 180 and it's just cutting right through this finish. Before staining, I am gonna clean everything off with some denatured alcohol. This will remove the sanding dust and anything else that's on the surface here. This will also give me a look at how I did with my sanding to make sure that I didn't get any sanding squirrels or anything like that. Sanding swirls. So after this dries, then I can move on. My stain choice is Olive Brown by Varathane, and I just really like how it has the slightest bit of green to it, which ends up neutralizing the reds in different types of veneers, and it just leaves you with a really nice neutral brown. Last thing I need to do is address the legs on here, and as is usual, this is a different type of wood. These are not solid walnut legs, and so I'm gonna use my Surprep sander with a foam pad adapter to sand these back, and then I'll use a darker water-based stain so it's a little more opaque to get me to the same level of color that I have on the rest of the piece. The stain I'm using for the legs is a water-based stain by Saman in the color chocolate. And finally, after letting everything dry, I am spraying on a very lightly tinted top coat just to even things out a little bit if there's any variation in the color. And I'm doing this with a water-based dye stain mixed in with my water-based top coat. In the end, I'll apply about 3 coats to the entire piece, sanding very lightly in between. And here's a final look before we see the reveal. So you remember what it looked like beforehand. We had this basic mid-century style dresser. It had this sticker top, a lot of scratches and dents and some finish issues here and there. After giving everything a refresh, this is the result. And I hate it. The color turned out all wrong. It's flat. It ended up splotchy in certain areas. I wished I would have just sealed the raw walnut and let it shine through, and I didn't. So I ended up going back to the drawing board and redoing this piece. And this is my second result. The walnut is stunning, in my opinion. It looks amazing this way. It's just sealed as it is. The frame and the legs are a bit darker, but I'm fine with that. I think it looks 100 times better than it did before. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you next time.